Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video. Today we are looking at the new Warcry supplement, the Tome of Champions 2021. So first of all, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a copy to review and share with you guys. If you are not a current player of Warcry or you've not seen the Tome of Champions before, this is essentially kind of like the General's Handbook or chapter approved for the kind of mainline systems. Essentially this updates the points values for the various fighters in the game, adds a load of new content, and in the case of this one adds a load of new fighters as well, so really cool. I am super impressed with this book, so looking forward to going through this and showing you what's within. So if we pop it open, we get quite a lot of new stuff in here. So first of all, we get a nice little chart showing all the current rune marks for the various factions. So since we've had the 4 Grand Alliance books, there's a lot of different forces in Warcry now. One of them, not a complaint, but maybe criticism I had back when the game came out, that some of the rune marks were very similar. It was quite hard to differentiate one from the other. So to make it really easy, they've printed out all the different rune marks, kind of ordered underneath the kind of Grand Alliances, which is nice. And we also get a couple of updates to the core rules for campaigns as well. One of the biggies is that consumable items can now be used as a free bonus action, so it doesn't cost you an action to use one, which is pretty nice. Also, the way reinforcements work in campaigns means that the aspirant warband can always choose to spend glory to increase their force. And speaking of glory, they've actually readjusted the kind of the glory that you earn from missions to make it so that it's not so heavily sided towards the winner. So winning the battle will still gain you 2 glory, but there's lots of other ways of getting glory. So you know, you're going to get 3 glory just for taking part in a campaign battle. So it gives even the loser some opportunity to gather that glory and use it. So I think that's a really good change, and yeah, I think that'll be much welcomed by the community. So one of the main things that people will be interested in this book are the new points values. They've done a really good system here where they've split it by Grand Alliance, and then all of the unit entries are in the order that they are in that Grand Alliance book as well, just to make it really easy to find the unit that you're looking for. And again, to make it really easy to see if there's been any points changes, they put a little asterisk beside each entry on there as well. So I'm not going to go through all these changes because, as you can see, most of these have had different points values. They've pretty much re-evaluated the entire range, gone through each faction, each Grand Alliance, and pretty much changed all the points. So if you are playing Warcry, you probably do want to pick this up to get those points values. I do believe there's a free applet on the Games Workshop website on Warhammer Community that does have a list builder, and I assume this will be updated with the points in here as well. But just for ease, having all the points in one place is going to be a really good thing. And like I say, most factions have had at least one fighter change their points. Some more than others. So you see the Unmade, it's just the Awakened one with Flail that's gone to 65 points. Where, for example, where's a good example? The Slaves to Darkness have all had changes on their leaders. So yeah, some big changes there. And again, we see this for all of the Grand Alliances. Now, that's one of the reasons people will pick up this book, but really that's not the main thing that this offers. There is an awful lot of new gaming content within this book. First of all, for open play, we see a full kind of rule system for siege battles. This is really cool. You can play it on a couple of different point sizes, going from a small battle, which has a points limit for the attackers of 2,000 points and 1,350 for the defenders. The game does recommend playing this as a group of allied forces working together, so 2 teams essentially. And you can work through up to a large game, which is 4,000 points for the attackers and 2,650 for the defenders. And essentially the defenders will set up their fortress, their wall, using scenery pieces. So you have a main kind of gate section, then a number of pieces representing the walls, and then the attacker will actually remove one of the wall sections to represent a breach in the wall. And basically they are trying to get through the breach and into the town, the city that the defenders are trying to protect, while the defenders are going to try and take out the attackers. Now, to mix things up a little bit, the attackers always get a monster added to their side as well of their choice. Doesn't cost any points, adds a bit of hitting power. Because you'll want a hitting power to destroy the gate tower, which itself has got a toughness value and it's got wounds. They can try and destroy it to make another entryway into the town, while the defenders have got a messenger who is trying to escape, flee the battlefield and call for help. So it looks a really, really fun game. I'm looking forward to trying that myself. It's slightly bigger than usual, takes place on 2 Warcry tiles, but definitely a nice cinematic game to, I don't know, finish a campaign or does a special one-off. Now we also get a load of content for narrative play. One of my favourite things that was recently added to the game were the branching quests. So think of a pick your own adventure and you're part way there. Basically there's a quest for each Grand Alliance, and as you go through and complete each convergence, you will get to pick one of a couple of options that changes the storyline. So for example, in this one, after the battle you take a prisoner who tells you about a Cainite temple, an arcane library, or a kind of cursed Dwarden city, and then you actually have to pick which one you want to go and investigate, and that will lead you on to a bespoke mission for that option. And then that mission itself then has a couple of outcomes that then leads to something else. So you've got a really nice kind of like branching storyline based on what you do, giving you quite a bit of replayability and quite a bit of fun in playing through the events and seeing what happens. And then after all this, depending on what you do, you'll get different rewards. Different rewards based on, you know, which path you take overall. So basically for each of these branching quests you can have 6 different rewards that you can possibly get based on how the antics went, which is really cool because it means that you could play through the same branching quest with different warbands and get to a different outcome, which I think is really, really fun. So yeah, we've got these for each Grand Alliance as well, so I really hope that we see some more stuff like this in the future, because I think that's a really, really fun thing that kind of adds to the length of the game and the narrative. Each of these different convergences has got a little bit of narrative about it, and I know when I'm playing it I try and kind of play in character and pick the options that my warband would go for to see how the story continues. So yeah, I think that's a really, really fun thing, and I'm glad they've added more of these, and already I want to see more because they're really, really fun. So in addition to the branching quests, we also get fated quests as well. So these are, you know, similar to what we've got in the core rulebook, with a couple of differences. So we have got an element of choice in these as well. So at the end of each one, you've got a choice between honour or glory. Now, if you pick glory, you'll get an artifact of power at the end, you know, which is cool, same as normal. If you, however, pick honour, you get something called an exalted command trait. So these are special command traits that replace the trait that your leader's already got. So again, mixing things up and giving your warband some different options. And again, we get enough of these for all the different Grand Alliances. The first 2 use tiles, layouts from Catacombs, but the book does call out if you don't have that expansion, you are free to just, you know, roll up a random map and use that. But yeah, really cool. And at the end of here we get a nice little chart with all the different glory and honour rewards. So again, you know, if depends how narrative you want to play, I guess. You could read ahead and pick, you know, which option's going to work for your warband. Or what I'll probably do is just go with the flow and see what fits me, whether I pick the honour or glory, and leave it to fate to decide what kind of reward I'm going to get at the end. So again, really, really like that. I think that's pretty fun. Nice addition to the game. What's also a nice addition to the game are 5 new narrative campaigns. Now these are cool in that they tie into a lot of the events of the Broken Realm series and any other recent Age of Sigmar publications. and have quite a range of different playstyles. We've got stuff for 2 players, we've got stuff for 2 teams, we've got 5-player campaigns, we've even got a solo player mission where you're fighting Skaven. So we'll have a quick look through these and see what they are. So Purge of Anvil Guard is a really, really fun one. One side is playing the forces of Kaiser Venbrecht, who, if you've read the Broken Realms Marathi book, no, he's the Stormcast who was trying to figure out the secret to the Black Scale Coil, the kind of shadowy organisation who were pulling the strings in Anvil Guard. So one player controls them, he's got his own fighter card, and basically you can have cities of Sigmar or Stormcast with them. And then the other player represents the Black Scale Coil, who will be all those, you know, Dark Elf, essentially, fighters. And yeah, at the start of the campaign, the Black Scale Coil player will pick various secret locations around the city that represent a number of different clues. And then the Stormcast player will pick locations one at a time and try and figure out what's going on. If they pick the kind of the major assets, they've got a chance of getting more clues. And then as they accumulate clues, they can finally get to the big narrative showdown, where they find out that Thalos the Cruel is the kind of leader of this shadowy organisation, and try and put a stop to him. So really, really fun. I like that. I quite like the concept of searching in different parts of the city to try and find out what's going on. The second campaign that we've got is another 2-player one, and this is based around the events of Broken Realms Teclis. You've got a Lumineth force led by the Light of Eltharion, who again gets his own fighter card, against a Ossiarch Bone Reaper's force commanded by Arkan the Black. He does turn up in the big kind of cinematic boss battle at the end of it, but the twist in this campaign is that the Bone Reaper player doesn't have to commit to a warband. Each mission that comes up, they can gather together whatever forces they want, up to the points limit, to represent what forces were there. Basically represents the masses of Bone Reapers that are in this conflict, and the Lumineth player is, you know, travelling from area to area, fighting through different forces. They also get a unique kind of like endless spell, the Nightmare Predator, who basically moves around, does damage to things that it moves through. A big, scary, kind of monstrous thing to watch out for, to add a bit of interest. And again, like I say, it ends in a big battle where we've got Arkan the Black takes the field with his own army, and we see the cinematic showdown between the Light of Eltharion and Arkan. Now, what's cool about both this mission and the previous one is the book recommends, once you've completed the mission, you could perhaps play some of the narrative missions out of the Broken Realms books, which is a really, really cool idea. So you can have a kind of continuing story starting off on Warcry scale games and building up to big games of Age of Sigmar. So again, really, really fun. I really like that. We then have a team game based around Broken Realms Be'lakor. Recommends between 4 and 6 players, with one side controlling the forces of the demons controlled by Be'lakor, and the other side controlling the Nighthaunt. So again, really, really fun. It's kind of built around a rock, paper, scissors kind of mechanic, where for each game, each side will pick one of 3 options, and then based on the option that the opposing force has picked, that will determine which side's got advantage, your deployment and your victory condition. So yeah, pretty nice condition. You try and psych out the opponent and try and work out what they're going to pick, and then that culminates in a big coalition of death mission where everybody gets involved. So again, really, really fun. My favourite one, I think, is the Rat Hunters though. So this can either be played solo or as a 2-player cooperative mode, and basically it's set within Exalted, which was the city in Broken Realms Kragnos. And yeah, you're fighting through waves of Skaven. Each battle has bigger and bigger Skaven forces, and your guys are trying to fight through them. And it actually uses a bit of a kind of like AI system and a bit of logic to determine where the enemy fighters move. So yeah, really nice for being able to play Warcry by yourself. Definitely a good option. I know they've touched on this in the past with a few, I think White Dwarf and Warhammer Community, I want to say, I've had a few solo play rules in the past, but yeah, it's good to have it in this expansion so you can play through that yourself. And again, that culminates in a final showdown against endless swarms of Skaven. Basically, each kind of battle group that you kill gets replaced the following turn as a new battle group. You gotta kill a leader and then get your guys out. So, looks really fun. I'm looking forward to playing through that one. Might even try a bit of a solo player stream of this one at some point as well. The next narrative mission that we get in the book is based around Ulfenkarn. So if you don't know, that is the city from the Cursed City game that came out last year and I think is soon to be re-released imminently. And yeah, basically it's a 4-player mission where as you're in Ulfenkarn, when it turns night, bad things happen. The undead raise. So basically during the battle at some point, night will fall, the undead will claw their way out of the graves, and there's actually fighter cards for all the adversaries out of Cursed City, and they will act like territorial predators. So really, really nice twist, and I quite like the vibe of all these skeletons and zombies clawing their way out of the earth and harassing the players during the battle. Again, as we're setting out Ulfenkarn, at the end of a battle, you can choose to send one of your guys out into the city to see if they find anything. You can get good stuff, like get some progress towards your kind of like mission that you're trying to do over the course of the campaign, or you can get slain and turned into one of the shambling dead yourself. So quite fun. Reminds me of some of the kind of post-game stuff in Necromunda and Mordheim. And that culminates in a big Triumph and Treachery battle, which is all kinds of crazy. Once turn 2 hits, night falls, and not only have you got 4 forces trying to fight against each other, the undead also start coming up as well. And basically with the undead, they've all got a kind of a value representing their power, and you generate a certain number of units worth of undead each turn. So again, really, really fun and a different way of playing your games of Warcry. And then the final narrative mission that we get is kind of a sequel to the Dominion box. Again, with all these, I think they've tried to tie them into the other various Games Workshop kind of storylines, so you can have a lot of cross-system play, which again, I think is a pretty fun thing, and I'd like to see more of that in the future from Games Workshop. And yeah, basically on this one, you've got 3 different locations, and each location has got some different, conditions for a battle there. And each side, the Cruel Boys and the Stormcast, have got 3 of the heroes out of the Dominion box, and you secretly send each hero to one of the 3 locations. So again, you've got a little bit of double bluffing and coercing your opponent into sending someone to a location that they don't want to, and then you'll reveal who's fighting who, and then based on who's there, you'll have a force that goes with them. So for example, you could wind up in a situation where the big Cruel Boys force fights the small Stormcast force, and a lot of the kind of like sub-game is working out which force you want to send where. So again, really, really fun. Again, especially for the fact that you can have quite a bit of crossover with games of Age of Sigmar as well, which is really cool. So it's not just open play and narrative play that gets some love in this book. We actually get updated match play rules. So like with the previous Tomes of Champions, we get the 21-22 season battle pack, I guess for want of a better word, and this has the quote marks tournament play games. So you've got 6 pitched battles that you can use for your kind of like organised play games, and then also a full kind of tournament pack, which I was really impressed with, to be fair, even down to hints on how to organise the event, a suggested schedule for the day. You've got like a leader table based on how many tournament points you've got over the event. You get different artifacts of power, with the winner getting a special one of their own. And again, that is all listed in here, along with kind of bespoke missions to play for the event. So really, really like this. If you want to do a kind of like your local group, I think it's 4 to 12 players this supports. So if you've got a local gaming group that maybe wants to try out a one-day Warcry tournament, this is a really nice way of doing it, especially since it kind of talks you through the setup and what time you need to play those games. I think that's a really nice thing to have for the game. So yeah, really impressed with that. Now the last third of the book has got some really cool stuff for Warcry players that's going to massively expand the warbands that you're able to take in your games of Warcry. So a lot of this has been printed elsewhere, but this is contained together in a book for the first time. First of all, we've got the full Lumineth Realm Lord, army list, abilities, all the stuff you would expect for every single kind of unit choice, along with the kind of narrative names and origins and background stuff that we see in the core Warcry books as well. Alongside them, we get the full Soulblight Gravelords list as well. Again, using all those new models that have been released since last year, including some of the Curse City ones as well, like the Bloodborne, the Varg Skier. Lots of really, really cool stuff. I'm really happy that they've given us the options to use these, because for people who've got Age of Sigmar armies, it gives you another outlet. If you may be thinking of dipping your toe into Warcry and you've got a Gravelord's army, you can then build a warband out of these models. So really, really like that. Speaking of existing Age of Sigmar players, we also get the full lists for the Thunderstrike Stormcast. So these are the ones that were in the Dominion box and the recent Stormcast releases, and also the Cruel Boys as well. So the adversaries from that box again, with the full profiles and all the rules and stuff for them. So that's pretty ace. So then finally, and this was a big surprise to me, I'm sure by the time this video has gone out it's already been talked about on Warhammer Community, but yeah, this book actually contains rules for every single Warhammer Underworlds warband and rules for using them within your games of Warcry, which is really, really cool. So as ever, they're branched under the 4 Grand Alliances, but each of them has a kind of a parent faction. So if you've got a Daughters of Cain warband, you can just take any of these fighters from that Warhammer Underworlds warband and add them into your warband. Really, really cool. All with their profiles, all with their points values. You've got abilities for each of these. And this covers every single Warhammer Underworlds warband in the game. So yeah, if you've been playing Underworlds at all at any time, you can add the models. Like, you can add the crab to your Idoneth. That's a win in my book. So yeah, really, really impressed that they've done this. Some of the warbands, points wise, are probably big enough to use as a warband in their own right. A lot of them, you've probably got 600 points worth of stuff for a lot of them, but the fact that you can slot them into your existing warbands is brilliant. I was a little bit worried that you'd only be able to use these independently, but because these both sit under that Sylvaneth rune mark, you can include the Kernothi in your Sylvaneth force if you want. So again, really cool. And like I say, each and every warband that's been released for the game ever gets full rules in here and points. Like I say, there's a big old chunk of the book with all these profiles in here, and I am super impressed that they've done this. Now, the only stuff that isn't in here is the stuff that's come out this year. Again, the title of this book is Tome of Champions 2021. I suspect this was meant to be released last year, and due to global shipping issues, it has been delayed a little bit, unfortunately. So stuff like the Pirate Ogre isn't in here. So no Monkey with a Knife, unfortunately, in your warband yet. Though if they keep up this pattern, it wouldn't surprise me if they get added to future editions of this book in future. So yeah, really, really cool. So that was a quick look over the Tome of Champions 21. I have done a full detailed write-up of this over on the website, spruesandbrews.com. So if you do want a bit of a more deep dive into it, and a bit heavier details into those campaigns, then check that out. If not, I hope you have a great weekend, you've enjoyed this video, and yep, hope to see you soon. See you next time.